Buying a home is always a stressful situation, but it can be especially stressful when the timing of things just don't line up. Sometimes it's necessary to do a leaseback when you're buying a home. In this video, we're going to talk about a very important step that you absolutely have to make when you're doing a leaseback, when you're buying a home and doing a leaseback, that will save you from potentially massive headache. It's a very simple two-step process. We're going to get into that just after this bumper. All right, so here's the thing. When you're buying a home and you are leasing it back to the seller of the home for a period of time, 7 days, 14, 30 days, whatever it happens to be, there's a difference in risk because there's this little thing called insurable interest. And when the seller sells the home, guess what? They no longer have insurable interest. I get this question fairly often from our realtor channel partners. Thank you, Brittany Noblejack with Keller Williams here in McKinney, for being the most recent one to ask this question. And I'm glad we were able to help you and your client with this exact situation. So the two-step process we always recommend our home buyer clients engage in is very simply this. The seller of the home, the one who's going to be enjoying that lease back, needs to buy a renter's insurance policy. Thankfully, they're very inexpensive, and they only need to have this policy in place for the full duration of the lease back, which most of the time is no more than a month or two at the most. Usually it's 7, 14, 21 days, whatever. But the seller buys a renter's insurance policy with maxed out liability coverage, which is usually $500,000, sometimes it's $1 million, depending on the carrier of the renter's insurance. And the second thing they have to do, they absolutely have to do this for the strategy to work. The seller lists the buyer of the property as an additional insured party on the renter's insurance. What are the benefits of this? They're twofold. First off, the seller of the property has the ability to put personal property coverage on the renter's insurance policy, so if their stuff is still in the house, they get to keep coverage during the leaseback provision. But for the perspective of the home buyer, it's very important because that renter's insurance policy carries liability coverage. Liability coverage in favor of the party giving the lease back. So if something happens during the time the seller is occupying the property, the buyer is protected by the liability coverage on the renter's insurance. So if there's a fire in the kitchen, or there's a problem with the water heater and the valve fails and there's water flooded everywhere inside the home, or God forbid something catastrophic happens, there is a tornado or a large fire and the property is severely damaged or destroyed, a renter's policy in place protecting the interests of the home buyer is critical. Because if the seller doesn't buy a renter's insurance policy and the seller doesn't list the buyer as an additional insured party, then anything that happens in that property or in the front yard of the property, if there were a slip and fall situation, is going to be the responsibility of the home buyer. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be on the hook for someone else's problem during a leaseback when I'm not even in the house yet. So take those two steps and you'll be better protected during any leaseback situation. Make the seller get a renter's insurance policy and make the seller list the buyer as an additional insured party, and you'll be much better off, much better protected, and yes, you will risk well. If you have any questions about this strategy, if there's anything else that I can help you with the home buying process as it pertains to insurance and risk management, we'll be happy to assist you with that. Call me at the office, 469-678-8001. Drop us an email at info@riskwell.com. And please remember, boys and girls, life is risky. Risk well.